Okay, hi everybody. I'm back. There's 8 minutes left on my timer, which when it rings, the roast will have been in the oven for 1 hour. But I'm going to get ready to do the dumplings. And the water is definitely boiling. Make sure when you lift the lid, you put it off to the side because you're definitely going to need it. I'm just going to turn my cabbage up just a little bit. I'm not going to turn it up crazy, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir. So, for this phase, you're going to want your hands very clean, and make sure you thoroughly dry your hands. You do not want your hands to be wet when you go to do the dumpling balls. So make sure your hands are very, very dry. You're also going to want to remove any jewelry that you are wearing. So I'm going to take my rings off. I'm going to leave my wedding rings on just because I kind of know how to do this. Make sure you have a wooden spoon handy. And that'll prevent the donuts. When you plop them into the boiling water, they're going to sink right to the bottom. And you want to kind of loosen them up. You do not want them sitting on the bottom of your pot, otherwise they will burn. So, with the little flour that you've reserved, just flour your hands because you're going to reach in and I'm going to kind of pull you guys down, so hopefully you guys can see this. You won't be able to see me, but you'll be able to hear me. So I'm going to just put a little flour on top, not much. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to... Ice, get away from me. Stop it. Okay, so I'm just going to help the dough come out. You're going to use the tips of your finger to do this. Don't worry if you can't get all of the dough out. And the dough is going to be very, very sticky still. Now I'm going to put the... So, all of my dough is sitting here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flour it just a little bit. And with my hands, I'm just going to kind of knead it a little bit. If you get a piece that's really, really sticky, put a little bit of flour. And this is where a wooden board is better than plastic. I grabbed my plastic one just to show you. And since I tripled this recipe, this is going to make at least 3 decent sized balls. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on it. And you're just going to roll them into kind of a ball form. They don't have to be a perfectly round one, but you just kind of want them to be round like that. And you're going to do that for the rest of the dough. Actually, going to put a little bit more flour on this. And like I said, I've been making these for a long, long time, so I kind of know you want your balls to be about the same size. This one, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and use some of this flour. The one trick with this is you do not over flour your dumplings, otherwise they will be the consistency of cement when you eat them. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of hopefully be able to do this. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this or not, but we're going to try to get... Nope, I got to put you guys down. Okay. There is my pot of boiling water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop each dumpling one at a time into the water. And I'm going to quickly use my wooden spoon. And I'm just going to give it a shake so that they're not settling on the bottom. And when you give them a shake, they should float right up or free float. They shouldn't be stuck to the bottom. And this is why I said you need a big pot of boiling water. Jasper, you need to move, honey. Okay, now I'm just going to loosen my thing. Make sure to keep your flame on high because you want this to continuously boil. Now what you're going to do is you're going to cover them. And you're going to set your timer. You're going to set your timer for 25 minutes. Sometimes you will need to go a little bit longer. If you do more than 4 balls or they're really, really large, add a couple of extra minutes because when you cut them, if the dough in the middle of the dumpling is still doughy and not cooked, then you need to put them back in the water for a couple more minutes. So adjust your time as needed. In the meantime, make sure to wash your hands after you've done that. Otherwise, your hands are going to be very, very doughy. And it's always good if you go to the store and find the Scrub Daddy, get a package. It's always great to have them in the kitchen because they will help your hands get the dough off of your hands. You're also, if you have nails like I do, you're going to have dough underneath your fingernails. And you can wait for it to dry and they'll actually come right out, or you can kind of get the dough out. And if you're worried about your mixing bowl having all this dough stuck to it, put your water on hot and put a little soap in it and just let it sit for a good 20 minutes before you wash it. It'll make getting the dough out of your mixing bowl much easier. I'm going to look at my roast right now and it's actually looking pretty good. And I still have quite a bit of juice. I'm going to actually flip you guys down so you can see what it looks like. I don't really have to add any more juice to this. I'm just going to add a little bit. So when you get to the half an hour mark, you might not need to add all of your juice. Just kind of monitor it. Now, I did tell you guys this is going to be messy, and I'm going to pull this back. You're going to notice that this is going to boil over with the lid on. Depending on how tight your lid is, it will make a mess on your stove top. Let it. It needs to do that for the dumplings to come out really good. One trick I have, if you're not using all of your burners, or if let's say this section was not cooking, take the middle section right here off of your stove, and you can kind of, as it boils out, put a little bit of paper towels. Now, mind you, make sure to keep the paper towels away from your flame because you don't want to start a fire. That's one way of cleaning up your stove. The other one is the minute your dumplings are done and you cut them, move this over to the back burner, take the front burner off, and then do your clean. It makes cleanup a lot easier. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to wait till the meal is done and the stove is completely cool to wash. But that's the price you pay for a good dumpling. So we're just going to let the dumplings boil for 25 minutes. And then I'm going to kind of show you how to cut them. There's a little bit of a trick. I'm going to have my husband hand me my dumpling cutter and actually show you what the dumpling cutter looks like. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I still have 18 minutes for the dumplings, but I was going to show you what a dumpling cutter actually looks like. This is a dumpling cutter, and I'm blessed because my grandmother bought me one when I was a teenager, and I've had this one for close to 25 years. I also have hers. When she passed away, I inherited her dumpling cutter, but they're really good. I don't know if I'll get in close. This has wires, and they're about a quarter to possibly a little bit more than a quarter of an inch wide. And when they cut the dumplings, they will cut the dumplings in even pieces. That's one way of cutting dumplings. These are very hard to find. The store that I bought this in the Illinois area is no longer in business. It was in Berwyn. And that was, like I said, 25 years ago. But you could look online for dumpling cutters. Look for Czechoslovakian dumpling cutters. And they will import them. I don't know what their price point are because I haven't bought one in years. I know they used to be expensive. This one I think was in the $40 range in the 80s when my grandmother bought it. She actually bought it in the 80s and I got it in the early part of the 1990s. If you don't have a dumpling cutter, don't fret. You can use a knife and a fork. What I would do is I would use a big fork and a very sharp knife. A bread knife would be perfect for doing this, and you're going to kind of eyeball them. You don't want them too thin and you don't want them too thick. You want them about a quarter to a little bit bigger than a quarter of an inch when you cut them. And I will show you what I mean when I start cutting these. At this point also, unfortunately, my husband's not really in the way. What you're also going to want to do is you're going to want to get a baking sheet out. Or a cookie sheet, I should say. If you're doing this the same day, if you're not doing this ahead of time, you're still going to want your cookie sheet to put your cut dumplings on and allow them to cool before placing them in the refrigerator. Dumplings also will freeze really well. This will make quite a bit of dumplings. I did 4 balls, and each ball usually produces 6 dumplings. So that's 24 dumplings. That will suffice. Figure for a normal meal, 2 to 3 dumplings a person. I love dumplings, so I will eat 4 dumplings at one sitting. But that's also me. So since I'm going to put this right on the garbage can. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your aluminum foil and you're just going to line your pan. What this does is it will protect, it will also keep the heat of the dumplings, especially if your dumplings are done ahead of your roast. And mine will be about a half an hour before the roast is done. So what I'm doing is I'm just lining the bottom of my sheet, and I will show you that my cookie sheet is now lined. Make sure to keep your aluminum foil handy because once you cut the dumplings after you've laid them on this sheet of foil, you're going to cover them completely with another sheet. That will keep their heat in and will keep them nice and hot for you when it comes time to serving the dumplings. So in 14 minutes when my dumplings are done, I'll come back and show you what we do and what they look like.